Here. Birdie.
Here.
McCall. Here. Shear.
Here.
McKellar.
Here.
Warren.
Yes.
And Fisher.
Here.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to approve the agenda, please? So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving into the consent grouping, the September 2nd, excuse me, we're going out of order here. We're going to take the folks from Dennis and the Gartland. Mary Krantz and Corinne Clary, do I have that right?
Yes,
And
correct.
Corinne, you're starting out?
I am.
Welcome to our meeting, glad to have you, and
Oh,
you have the
thank you.
floor.
All right. Well, I'm going to go over the financial statements kind of briefly here for you. First off, we'll start off with our final audit report. So we provided an audit for you, which is the highest level of assurance that we can provide on a set of financial statements. And ultimately, we did issue an unmodified opinion, which kind of translates to a clean opinion. So that's the good news. So if we kind of flip through your audit package there, in the first couple pages, there's the Roman numeral pages, which is considered the management discussion and analysis, and that really provides kind of a high-level overview that I'll kind of review with you while we're here. So if you flip to Roman numeral page 6, in there, table 1 kind of presents your balance sheet or the statement of net position for the year. So if we kind of run down that, your total assets in the year decreased about $400,000 from 54.6 million to about 54.2 for 2014. And although some of the asset line items had some fluctuations in the year, mostly that's attributable to decrease in cash and investments from last year. Then your total liabilities there increased about $300,000 from about 12.9 million to about 13.2 million. And again, a lot of fluctuations between individual line items, but mostly that is attributable to the environmental remediation estimation liability that's out there. And then there at the bottom, the total net position, you can see that that decreased from about 41.7 million to about 41 million, so an overall net decrease of about $700,000 from last year. So if you flip over one more page to page 7, we can kind of go into the detail a little bit of that $700,000 decrease. Total revenues there increased about 1.5 million from last year, from about 59 million to 60.5 million. And mostly those increases relate to increase in the charges for services, some property tax revenues, and also some other transactions, or other revenue transactions as well. Total expenses, you can see there, about 61.2 versus 58.1 last year, so that's about a $3.1 million increase in revenue, or expenses. And mostly that relates to your support services that you provide. So in conjunction with that $1.5 million increase in revenues, but which is exceeded by a $3.1 million increase in expenses, that resulted in that $700,000 net decrease that you had in the year. So some other kind of highlights there, if you flip to Roman numeral page 9, kind of details some of the capital assets for the district. So overall, TBA has about $7.8 million invested in capital assets. So if you look at the detail from 13 to 14, there was a net investment of about $383,000 in buildings and improvements, net investment of about $486,000 in furniture and equipment, and about $83,000 in buses and vehicles. And so when you take that in conjunction with increase in depreciation expense, your total capital assets increase about $91,000 net from last year. So if you flip one more page over to the factors bearing on the district's future, these are some discussion points that management wanted to bring to your attention. So the first one relates to the retirement rate, which is currently between about 34-35%. And so there's some concern there about the state aid fund monies that are basically the state legislature is using to buy down that retirement rate. So there's concern about the stability of the state aid fund going forward. And that also kind of ties into the second point of the Section 81, the general obligation funds, and how the state aid money is available going forward for that. Third there is, the school districts is starting to see a little bit of an increase in the property tax base, which is great, but those increases have been pretty small over recent years. And so, and since the school district, you know, is so heavily dependent on that property tax revenues, there's just concern with the budget, going forward of how, you know, how the school can continue to balance those budgets. And last but not least is the, environmental, liability estimate that's out there. As you are well aware that that's there. And the school continues to work with the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality to get that cleaned up. And it is expected that that should be wrapped up within about the next 10 years. So you're getting there. Kind of went over that quickly, but does anybody have any questions at all? No? Okay.
So how long has it been? 25 years?
More than that.
Oh, yeah.
35
Yep.
since we took over the property.
Mary's going to review the audit-related communications with you.
Okay, you also received a letter in your packet, and I'll just highlight some information that's not the non-boilerplate information in this letter. There's a couple items that we have. They start in the bottom of page 1 and go to page 2, just a couple of comments. During 2014, the General Education Fund had 2 functions where expenditures exceeded budgeted amounts. Those amounts are disclosed in the notes to the financial statement. It's not uncommon for people to have variance, some occasionally go over budget. And I know this, you try really hard to prevent that from happening, but that's something that we have to make you aware of. At the top of page 2, depreciation schedules. The software that maintains your depreciation schedules, it's not capable of reverting to previous years. Neither is the depreciation software in our office. And when we mess up, we've got to go back and have our network administrator, you know, restore an old file. So we just have a comment there to print a hard copy and keep that, so so you don't have to go back and restore an older file. Qualitative aspects of accounting principles. We got some accounting estimates listed there. Accounting policies, those aren't any different than they have been in the past. The last paragraph on page 2, corrected and uncorrected misstatements. If we made any adjusting journal entries to your records, we're have to disclose those to you now. For this year, there were no uncorrected or corrected misstatements in the district's financial statements. At the bottom of page 3, the financial reporting for pension plans. This is a standard that will go in effect for the district next year. And next year on your entity-wide statements, that's your full accrual statements, not the fund statements that you budget on and so forth. You'll have to pick up your share of the Michigan Public School Retirement Systems liability for the pension. And we estimated at this point your liability is probably around $62.4 million that you'll have to pick up on the government-wide financial statements. So that will have, so TBA will be in the same situation as almost every school in the state will, on that government-wide statement. When you have to pick up the liability next year, you'll be in a net deficit on your government-wide statements. Your fund financial statements, you'll still be okay because you only have to report current liabilities and current assets on those statements. But that's, I think we talked about that last year, so that's just to remind you that that's coming up next year. And then on page 4, I think the first item we discussed last year. In the middle of page 4, there's some single audit updates. Really, as far as a single audit threshold, it really won't affect TBA. The threshold's going up from $500,000 to $750,000, but you have millions of dollars of federal aid, so you still have to have a single audit. There is some new guidance regarding indirect cost rates. If you don't have a approved rate or a rate that you negotiated with the state, you can use a 10%. And then any corrective action plans, if you have one with your single audit programs, and I don't think we've had any findings for a long, long, long time. If you had findings, you would have to respond to those findings on the district's letterhead. But, you know, unless something changes, it probably won't affect TBA at all. That's all I had on the letter.
Questions of Mary?
And if you have, you know, if you come up with questions later on the letter or on the financial statement, you can feel free to call Corinne or myself.
Great, okay.
I would like to say thank you, Mary, Corinne, for your work and working with us. And I also want to thank Stephanie and our business team down here. The reason that we've had solid audits, that we're fiscally responsible, has a lot to do with Stephanie's leadership and our staff. So, thank you to both of you, and Stephanie, thank you for your.
Thank you.
One thing, we dropped our fund balances combined by about $1.5 million. So
Oh, let's see.
I go back to,
On page 10, your combined fund balances went up about $242,000.
Roman numeral 10, or are we?
On page, regular 10.
Arabic 10, okay.
Yeah, so page 10, page 9 and 10 is, you know, how you traditionally reported until GASB 34 came along. So this is, you know, your short-term focus revenue, money, you know, that came in and how it was spent. So, yes, your overall fund balances went up about $242,000. On the government-wide financial statements, the net position went down about $625,000. And on the government-wide statements, those are the statements that have all your assets and liabilities, both short-term and long-term. Whereas pages 9 and 10 just have a near-term focus. They don't have long-term liabilities recorded on there. Or your capital assets aren't on the fund accounts.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, back to the consent grouping. The first item would be the September 2nd, 2014 regular meeting minutes. Any discussion, any issues with respect to those minutes? If not, Stephanie?
Okay, first we have the monthly accounts payable check summary for the month ending September 2014. We have checks numbered 160,685 to 161,046, and the amount is $767,922.10. Moving on to the revenue and expenditure report. Looking first at general education. Overall, we have 31% revenue collected, and expenditures are at 29%. Special education, you'll see detailed, we have 30% revenue collected, and expenditures at 21%. And finally, within the vocational education fund, revenues of 54% and expenditures of 50%.
Questions about the financials? Go ahead with personnel.
Okay, we have a number of new employees for your consideration. Jill Page, teacher assistant. Angela Williams, teacher assistant. Stacy Leonard, teacher assistant. Kelly Schultz, teacher assistant. Holly Davis, teacher assistant. Jessica Gamma, teacher assistant. Jonathan Spencer, teacher assistant. And finally, Catherine Meyer-Luz, instructional services specialist. We have a few resignations for your consideration. Charles Rushlow, computer technician. Carol Smith, counselor. She'll be retiring after 25.5 years with us. Mary Jo Pangborn, speech pathologist. And Danielle and Freddie Portillo, they're temporary migrant recruiters. Moving on, we have currently is our transition coordinator, and she's asking for a leave from November 1st through May 1st of 2015. Should I move on to travel?
Yeah, any questions on personnel? No. Okay, go ahead, thanks.
I've got quite a list of travel requests for you. This is 5 different trips for staff members throughout our region to attend training, international baccalaureate training. I would like to note that all of this travel is covered under the Kellogg grant. Any questions?
Any questions, board members? If not, we need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move that we approve the consent calendar.
Support.
Discussion? Go ahead.
Carpenter.
Yes.
Berge.
Yes.
McCall.
Yes.
Shear.
Yes.
McKellar.
Yes.
Warren. And Fisher.
Yes.
Okay, good evening. Nice to see everybody on this beautiful fall day. Liz, happy birthday again yesterday. Hope you had a great day and happy birthday. I had the opportunity last week, and Jason was intending to join me at the Leelanau County League of Women Voters. We were asked to come out and do a 90-minute presentation on the status of federal, state, and regional education. And I'll be passing around a letter that came today from the League of Women Voters. Jason was not able to attend because of a personnel issue that we were dealing with back here. But I did go out, and I'm sorry, Jason, that you couldn't go. We were looking forward to that, and it went very well. What a great group.
I bet you
Great
would
group.
have rather been there.
No, it was a great group, and everything went really well. Great questions, and it was fun. So the basis of my report tonight will be to share the first reading of some exciting work. And this is TBA-ISD Strategic Plan 2018. We've been working on this for over a year, and we're very, very excited about this draft. This is the first read for the board, and our expectation is to bring a formal recommendation for action at our November 3rd meeting. So this is still in draft form. I would like to say that I am so proud of not only the people in this room, but our entire staff and our entire region, including our local districts, for the input that they gave us to get to this point. We've been working very hard on this, and it's just a real honor for me to share this work with you. So you have 2 documents of hard copies. I will go over the legal size document first, and then talk about our lead training A3s second. I think Jason is trying to boot that up, so if you'd like to try and see it up on the screen, we can also follow along there. Yeah, thank you, Heather. I don't know if that will impact your filming, Doug, if we narrow the lights a little bit. Is that okay? Okay, so we've had a chance to see this document before. Our vision, to be the best educational system in the world. Our mission is leading lifetime learning. Okay, we've had this vision and mission for 8 years now. As you can see from the International Baccalaureate, we've got staff members from this region going throughout the country. We're expanding our horizons outside this region, and that's exciting. We've got our commitments, and then down in the bottom left corner, our indicators of success. Those 4 indicators of success are driving this strategic plan work. Everything we are doing is aligning underneath these 4 indicators of success. And that's how we developed the plan. That's how we went out and sought input regarding our plan and bring us to this point in time. So we'll go into the first document, which is a legal size sheet of paper, and you can see what we've been up to, and I want to share with you the format. Once again, you can follow along with your hard copy.
sorry, I forgot
It's
to.
all right.
Accept the acceptable use agreement, I should know to do that.
Need to do that, as we do every morning. Okay, I think I'll stand up just to go over this. As you look on the document, you'll see on the left-hand side will be the 4 indicators. Our 4 indicators of success, the first being student growth. Then the next column over, you'll find 11 goals that fall underneath the 4 indicators of success. Then we move over into the next column in the domain or the department that is responsible for that goal and these measurable objectives. So we have to have people responsible that we will hold accountable for these goals and objectives. And you'll see that this covers the full scope of our operation and organization. Everyone is involved. Everyone is in on this. And then you'll see the target conditions or the measurable objectives here on the right-hand side. And this is where all the work has been done by our tremendous staff and our tremendous region providing input. And then we as a leadership team filtered all of that input down, multiple sessions in this room, into these measurable objectives. And you'll see that these are SMART goals. These are measurable objectives. And so by 2018, we'll know where we stand in meeting those objectives. So you can tell by example, we had a good meeting last week going over this again and saying, okay, 100%, okay, the standard and the accountability is very high. And that's what we want for our organization. Some of these objectives already have tabulated and collected baseline data. And I'll share an example of one with you tonight. But as you see, and we scroll down, Jason, you can see as we move into the next indicator of success, quality service. We want to know how our local districts feel about us. We'll go out and get that and begin working on that. Service participation in the programs and offerings of service that we have. And then you have the measurable objectives here. Once again, all aspects of our organization are involved and have been involved. Third indicator, operational excellence. You can see the goals underneath here. The culture of the organization is very important for us. We're going to measure that. We're going to see where we are and make adjustments as necessary. Staff growth and performance, we talked enough about that in our work with Robert Marzano and that evaluation system. That's a priority for us. And then our fourth indicator is obviously community engagement, which is huge for us. And we encourage all the time, all of our staff members to be involved. It could be Little League coaching, it could be within their church, it could be on a nonprofit board, but we really try to make sure that everyone is involved. And we also want to survey our community, our regional community, on how they feel about TBA-ISD as an organization and a regional leader. So these are the 11 goals, and then we have the measurable objectives within them. I plan to present this document to our TBA-ISD superintendents at our meeting this Friday. This is a draft. It's always improving, we'll always be looking at it, but these are the guiding measurable objectives for this organization if the board approves this next month. Any questions on this document or the contents of this document?
100% seems
Everything we do, every decision we make, being financially responsible, will be based on this plan.
And we have all the school districts on board.
They had an opportunity months ago to provide input, and then this Friday, I'll be sharing this work again with our
But they're all on
superintendents.
board, for a while, we had some that weren't doing the Wazara. They're all on it now, right?
Yeah, we've got one district that is not participating in that. So 15 of 16 has a lot of traction. It's a great question.
But then how can you say 100%? That's by 2018.
It's our goal to get them, yes.
You don't,
That's
do
the
you know where
objective.
you are percentage-wise with some of these, that you've got 100% as an objective?
That's where the process and the work that we're doing right now is trying to determine which of the objectives we have baseline data for and where we need to collect it. Because obviously, if we don't have it, that's the first strategy.
And you're-
It's a great question.
So who's kind of in charge of the strategic plan? Who's kind of?
Well, we're all in on this, but our cabinet, we said that we are going to set our own action plan to make sure that this is implemented. And we will do that. And that's Stephanie, Jason, Carol, and myself, and other leaders. Okay?
Meeting on like a quarterly basis to get updates?
We meet every Monday,
Oh,
yes. And our plan, what we've talked about, is at this board meeting, picking an objective. And having that responsible department come in and say, okay, this is, 4.1 objective here, and have them present to the board their progress. So, and when I move into it's a great question, Liz, when I move into the A3 based on our lean training, I think you'll see that this will be action. This will not be a strategic plan that will sit up on the shelf and collect dust. Okay? Yeah, this will drive our organization. Any other questions on this document before I move into the A3 itself?
Did you tell the state they have to follow these instead of changing things?
I can try.
I just happened to talk to, I think it was a teacher at Frankfurt High School yesterday. Says that's what drives them crazy. Every time they turn around, there's a change by the state, what they want.
You'll see, yes,
Who
Rachel.
implements the evaluations in some of these pieces?
The evaluations.
Yeah, like the PPC staff will be rated as effective or highly
That would be
effective.
administrators.
So that-
Yeah.
Okay.
Building principals and assistant principals, service area directors would evaluate itinerant staff. Center-based special education directors would evaluate their staff. So it would be our leadership team would be responsible, and we're all being trained in the Marzano work together. It's a great question. Yes.
I think it's fabulous. You've set very high standards. It's consistent with being the best. When we set that as the vision, 8 years ago, I had the pleasure of being involved in that. There's criticism of TBA, we all know, in terms of our fund balance. Now we'll have something empirically to show to districts, about the investment and what the results are. And these certainly are SMART goals. They're measurable, and there's no doubt about it. They're not squishy, they're not qualitative, they're black or white. And so I have to commend you on them. It took a great deal of courage, I think, to set these. And I'm thrilled. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, it's a good point, because, as I mentioned, this will drive our work financially as well. And this board was supportive enough to support our recommendation of region-wide Marzano work this year of over $280,000. That's our commitment to the region. And that's a big one. And we did the same last year, so your point is well taken, that we can go back and have this document and this work drive us. It's a good point.
Mike, is there any other ISDs that are using a strategic plan like this?
Yeah, there are other school districts and ISDs that have strategic plans. Is it like this? No.
It can't be this line.
This is something that we adopted ourselves, and we wanted it to be ours. Everyone has a different language and how they put things up here, but that's a great question. We wanted this to be our language. Okay, any other questions before we talk about the A3? Lean training is not something that's new. It's been around for quite some time. We have been trained, many within the organization have been trained in lean training. In fact, Jason is working right now to schedule more lean training in the upcoming future for employees. But within lean concepts, they have something that's called an A3. And this is the action element of each of the measurable objectives. So if you can envision, we'll have this document with all the objectives on it. Then underneath it will be an A3, as you have in front of you, as you have up here, that drives the objective. So you can plan, you can do, you can check and make adjustments all the time on how you either are progressing or not progressing toward meeting that objective. So this is a key part of this plan. This is just one example that currently has baseline data. We know we have the data here. This is from our Career Tech Center. And each fall and spring, our students there take the ACT Work Keys, which is a workplace readiness assessment. We've been doing that for years, and it's very helpful in telling us, our students ready? And specifically, we're looking at, in this A3, at math and reading for or locating information, those two primary assessments. So every A3 will have a setup like this. So we talk about the theme, which includes our vision. We talk about the background, what is it? That's the ACT Work Keys telling us what it is. We've been doing this for at least 10 years. And then we have the current condition. That's the baseline data part. And as you can see, we've got percentages here. 56% of incoming first-year students scored at a level 5 or higher in reading for information. 67% of graduating students scored a level 5 or higher on reading for information. And then we go down to the math baseline data points. So this is the plan. We move over to the do, and that states once again the target condition or the measurable objective. And by 2018, we want 3/4 of our graduates will be at level 5 or higher. So you can see that is an increase. And the remaining 25% will be at least a level 4. So we're talking about all students within this strategic plan. All students. And even on a broad sense, we're talking about all students. We've got a task, people responsible, and deadlines. And Liz, I think to your question there, you can see we'll be measuring. Okay, then we go to the next page within this objective, and you see the check and adjust portion of it. We've got more on the plan and more on the do. Task, people responsible, timeline. For this specific goal, this will be Pat and Jason's responsibility to make sure that this is getting done. Okay, and then can we get to the check and adjust portion? Jason?
Yep.
Thank you. More of the task, people responsible. And then we check to see how we're doing. Get feedback from staff. Post-testing in the spring of each of the next few years. And then modification of interventions and targeted interventions within each of our programs at the Career Tech Center. So that is an example of an A3. Okay? What questions might you have?
Well, this is what you're doing at Career Tech.
That's
All
correct.
the other school districts are doing something similar to this?
No. Every local district, which we have no jurisdiction over,
Correct.
they're on their own. Some have strategic plans.
Do they come from you for help, because you have the expertise
Not yet.
in developing?
Not yet. This really was our first go-around. You know, we always had our commitments and our indicators and our vision and our mission, but we really never had, Bob, we had a continuous improvement model, but we really never had a bona fide strategic plan until Carol, Stephanie, and Jason pushed me to get it going.
All right, this is
And I
in the Career
appreciate that.
Tech. What about our other areas that we control?
Yeah, you can see it's within that first page, and you'll see the different domains on the legal size page, Bob. You can see every department, special education, career tech education, general education.
But you haven't developed
Yes,
something like this yet?
we have.
You have?
Yes, we have.
So how many, you'd have, what, 5 or 6 different areas that you'd have stuff?
Yeah, and including our
Yeah.
ancillary services, yeah, 5 areas.
Okay.
If you broke down the special education departments into service area directors and center-based programs, you know, that can expand out. But every aspect of the
How many more
organization
people do you need?
is in on this. That's a great question, Bob. Any other?
I had a suggestion, I got a driver on the chamber strategic plan.
I'm sorry.
I was a driver on the chamber strategic plan, and one of the things I thought was really neat is, every once in a while, we bring in somebody else who had a working strategic plan, that was doing it at a very high functioning level, have them sit in and kind of see how we were doing, and then they made observations and just said, like Bill would come in.
Yeah.
Right, and he'd say,
Yeah.
okay, well, this is how we do it here, and here's some things you guys might wanna think about pulling back on, or, it's just nice sometimes, because sometimes you're so in the thick of it, that to have, you know, just somebody, a forest with trees kind of thing, to make sure you guys are still seeing it.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion.
When we got, that's a
It helps
great
a lot.
one.
It helps
And,
us a
and,
lot.
you know, we had consultants come in, Tim Quinn
Yeah.
and Shelley came in and helped us get this thing off the ground. And it's been, we've had a lot of great sessions, highlighted by one, this July, where we really had a discussion about language. And we had different language items than what you see now, and we changed to correlate to the Michigan School Improvement Process. So it's aligned, the language is aligned to that, so we're not confusing folks. So, but that's a great idea. Any,
The work keys, the ACT work keys, do they change year to year? Is that a standard?
that's a great question, and I would defer to Jason or Pat.
Yeah, I think I can speak to that. So what they do with the work keys assessment is they do national job profiling. And so if somebody wants to be a nurse, ACT would conduct a series of focus groups with folks that are nurses, and they would, go through a series of questions or, conduct some type of research where they would be able to determine that the entry-level skills necessary to be successful in that occupation correlate with scoring a level 5 in applied math, scoring a level 4 in reading for information, whatever it might be. And so those would be periodically updated as there are major changes in the profession. But that's where those numbers come from. And so in CTC, in most of the programs, you walk into the program and there's some reference to the levels that students would need to perform at. It might be on a bulletin board or something like that. But that's really where this, maybe 10 years ago, and it may have even been a few years prior to that, where we really started going down that road because we had hard occupationally specific information in terms of the academic skills that kids would need. And Pat, just put his staff through taking the test, and so they, and they did that several years ago. But as a result of that, and as a result of what skill level they know based on those focus groups that students need to have, then they've got a series of activities, and those are the 2 teams that are referred to in the A3 document that they're putting students through as a center, about half of them being focused on math, about half of them being focused on English language arts, and they're trying to help increase and improve the skill set that students have, and they test for it twice a year. Hopefully that answers the question.
Well, I guess, with all the focus that's been in the news with everything about core curriculum, is core curriculum and the ACT keys following each other? And what if we see by teaching the core that we're not meeting these?
Great question.
Yeah, I don't know if there's if there is a lockstep correlation. I know my feeling when I took the assessment several years ago was, particularly with math, it seemed to be a lot more practical and a lot less abstract than sometimes what you see when you get into, you know, quote, upper level, unquote, math. Seemed to really be about understanding how to apply mathematical formulas in a given situation, for example. And it seemed to be a little bit more what, you know, we would just call practical math. But it was amazing the variance in, you know, in our performance as adults when we took the test. Remember, our chef in culinary arts 10 years ago scored the highest score in math. And I, you know, remember, you know, initially thinking that was kind of funny, but then looking at everything that he does on a daily basis, why wouldn't he have that skill set? So I think I'm just gonna offer some opinion, I think it may be one of the better national assessments that's out there. For me, it may be the best one.
Thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Heather too for her work in putting together this document and working on this too. So we're really excited about this. And as I mentioned, it will go to superintendents Friday. We still continue to work on this and get input from staff. Departments will continue to look at this, and this will be our driver.
More questions? All set? Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Heather.
You have more?
That's it. Thank you.
This one's
That's a lot of work. Okay, let's move on to action items, and the first one is a resolution to withdraw unfair labor practice charge. There's a resolution in your packet, I think, or at least there is in mine.
Yeah, there is a resolution there, Joe, and this is, unfortunately, we filed an unfair labor practice last October. With the EA, we went down and testified in Lansing in, I believe, January, and this was regarding two primary issues. As we were engaged in the collective bargaining process at that time, the prohibited subjects of bargaining that kept popping up at the table, and also the request to have our general education consultants be in the EA. So we made a decision, the board approved it in October of 2013, and it is our recommendation with a ratified contract right now that to save valuable resources, we have the contract, those issues are away, that we recommend adopting this resolution to drop the unfair labor practice. And this is based on not only our feelings, but also legal counsel's feelings.
I'd make the motion.
Second?
Discussion?
Carpenter?
Yes.
Berge?
Yes.
McCall?
Yes.
Shear?
Yes.
McKellar?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
And Fisher.
Yes, a resolution to approve auditor's report is presented.
You have, the bound copy and the separate letter that's presented.
I'd make the motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion?
I just, we gotta look at it more before we approve it. We just got it tonight. You know, I'd like time to look through it a bit before I approve it. Not that I mean, I appreciate them showing up and giving, and talking to us about it, but it seems kind of rubber stampish to just approve something I haven't looked at yet.
Fair enough. Is there any timeline that we have to have this approved by?
November 1st.
When?
November 1st.
I apologize, I thought you got it electronically.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
Last
I
week.
didn't look at it electronically. All right.
There's a strong possibility we may be having a special board meeting coming up in the next couple of weeks, but I can't guarantee that. And our next official meeting is not until November 3rd.
Well, I will not make the November meeting, so if the rest of the board is confident in voting to approve the resolution, I will go along with it.
Well, we've got a motion and support, and we've got any more discussion on the motion? Go ahead.
Carpenter?
Yes.
Berge?
Yes.
McCall?
Yes.
Shear?
Yes.
McKellar?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
And Fisher.
Yep. And Jim, I do appreciate what you're saying, and don't mean to step on
Yep.
it. Okay, resolution to approve contract with Grand Traverse County Parks and Recreation.
Yes, this is to allow our students in our center-based programs to participate in the swimming program at the Civic Center for this current school year. The amount of the contract's $21,051.
That's a great thing, so I'll move that we approve that contract.
A second?
Is there still a Parks and Recreation Jim? Maybe? You're close to
Hey,
that stuff.
I'm not in Grand Traverse County, I'm not part of the county parks and reserves, thus far, I think so.
I
But,
thought they fired somebody, we're gonna do
They
away with
did.
it? and,
I've got one board member who'd like to close schools, so.
huh.
So,
Well, assuming there's a county Parks and Recreation.
someone to contract with. huh?
That's right, yeah. Any further really deep discussion like I just had?
Yeah, that was,
Go ahead.
Carpenter.
Yes.
Bergy.
Yes.
McCall.
Yes.
Shear.
Yep.
McKeller.
Yes.
Warren.
Yeah.
And Fisher.
Yes. Resolution to approve contract with Cat's Corner.
Yes, this contract is to provide music therapy for our students in our center-based programs. Kat Brown is the contractor. She's been doing this for us for a number of years. The amount of the contract is $20,546.
I make the motion.
Thank you, Jim.
second.
Thank you, Liz. Discussion? Go ahead.
Carpenter.
Yes.
Bergy.
Yes.
McCall.
Yes.
Shear.
Yep.
McKeller.
Yes.
Warren.
Yeah.
And Fisher.
Yes. Resolution to approve contract with St. John's Healthcare. Is this the one down in Kingsley? This
Yes, it is.
38 grand?
$31,000.
Now, where is St. John's?
I'm not certain.
Up there now.
They are out of Ludington.
How many students do we have that we provide such a service for, just out of curiosity?
Currently, there's the one.
Just the one?
Yes, we have, had as high as 3 certain years.
These are services that the IEPs recommend, require.
That the IEPs require, based on the student's health status and input from a physician, yes.
Well, glad we can do it, yes. Is there a motion support?
Move that we approve this contract.
Support.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Carpenter.
Yes.
Bergy.
Yes.
McCall.
Yes.
Shear.
Yes.
McKeller.
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
And Fisher.
Yes, resolution to approve contract with Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency for Great Start Readiness Programs in Grand Traverse, Kalkaska, and Antrim counties.
Yes, this is actually to provide specialist services, again, for the Great Start Readiness programs. This will provide for 10 classrooms and, in Grand Traverse, Kalkaska, and Antrim counties.
Choir, Benzie, Leland, not included.
They have a different provider.
Just noticed them absent.
I have a question. We approved something similar to this a couple of meetings ago. Is this something different?
Yeah, it was only for a certain amount of time,
Okay.
so this one will go through June 30th. Good question.
Good job, Rachel. Good job, Bob, sticking up for those Benzie County folks too.
Leland, too.
You know, too, all right.
I knew what
Your
was
neighbor.
like.
Before we go on this, my son works for Community Action Agency. Is it inappropriate for me to go with that?
I don't think that's a conflict.
You have no financial
Yeah.
possibility.
Well,
Well, you might have to support
Well,
him.
Working with them, I do, yeah.
Loses his job because we vote no, he moves home, so.
I don't think he's directly related to Great Start.
Well, he's IT, he's related to everything, so, yeah,
I make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Rachel.
support.
Further discussion? I'll leave it to your conscience.
I made support. Better vote.
Yeah, better vote.
Carpenter. Bergy.
Yes.
McCall.
Yes.
Shear.
Yep.
McKeller.
Yes.
Warren.
Yes.
And Fisher.
Yes. Resolution to approve contract with Traverse City Area Chamber of Commerce for Great Start Coordinator.
Yes, this is a contract for Mary Manor, who is employed as the Great Start Collaborative Coordinator through the Chamber to provide regional work in the amount of $87,229.
That's the one I thought we approved a while ago,
And you
in a much
did,
smaller
you
amount.
did, it was.
That was for
yeah.
limited.
What happens is we have grants throughout the year, and so portions of
Okay.
activities are funded. So you're absolutely right.
Also moved.
Thank you.
Support.
Thank you, Rachel. Discussion? Go ahead.
Carpenter?
Yes.
Bergy?
Yes.
McCall?
Yes.
Shear?
Yep.
McKellar?
Yeah.
Warren?
Yes.
And Fisher?
Yes, resolution to approve contract with Michigan Rehabilitation Services.
Yes, this is to provide job coaching for special education students attending the Career and Technical Center in the amount of $43,380.
Move that we, to approve this contract with MRS.
Support.
Discussion? Go ahead.
Carpenter?
Yes.
Bergy?
Yes.
McCall?
Yes.
Shear?
Yes.
McKellar?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
And Fisher?
Yes. Resolution to approve contract with Doreen Radke Boyd for Great Start Readiness Program in Benzie and Grand Traverse counties.
Yes. And Doreen Radke Boyd is the coordinator that will be providing the services. And again, this is for Benzie and Grand Traverse counties. The amount is $32,000.
Make the motion.
Support.
Discussion? Go ahead.
Carpenter?
Yes.
Bergy?
Yes.
McCall?
Yes.
Shear?
Yep.
McKellar?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
And Fisher?
Yes. Resolution to approve ACT-GT mini grant.
This is for a mini grant that will support the ongoing adaptive art classes coordinated by Artists Creating Together. That's what the ACT stands for in Grand Traverse County. They are seeking a $4,000 grant, and they need this board to support it.
Oh, okay.
I make the motion.
Second.
Discussion? It's not costing us anything.
They do great work with our kids.
It's right outside
Yeah,
this board.
all of the
Cool
artwork
work.
down this hallway.
Fantastic.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take care of that. Public comment? Request reports from board members?
I do want to share one thing.
Well, now's your chance.
The library collaborated with the middle school in Tbaisd to bring a Holy Buster program for an anti-bullying campaign, and it was a great success. So we were really happy to have that. Need any collaboration?
Thank you.
What about that in the news these days, so it's good. Carol?
Good evening, everyone. This past week, on October 1st and 2nd, or a week ago, Carolyn McCanders provided 2 of the 4 days of adaptive schools training here. We had over 60 participants. We were supposed to have 70, and some sort of events at local districts prevented some from attending, but we had well over 60 attending. The goal of the training is to develop our regional and organizational collective identity as collaborators and inquirers. The research indicates that the more effectively adults work together, the higher the impact our work is on student achievement. So the goal is really about creating adults that work and learn and collaborate together and resolve tensions effectively. So we're pretty excited about that. This is the 3rd year that we have had that. Lee Kennedy and Marianne Swank are working to become agency trainers. Carolyn McCanders was highly complimentary of our staff and said she had never seen anyone in all of her days be so well prepared for their initial work. They're required to train with her until she releases them to do training on their own. And she said, I've never seen anyone in all my years so well prepared.
Wow.
Nice.
So,
That's great.
It was, and they were hard on themselves, well, we wish we'd done this, or, you know, worked a little harder, prepare, and she said, I don't know how you could have done that. So, very, I feel really honored, to have those staff members do such really important work here.
And she travels the world training.
She travels the world, you know, Australia, Asia, Africa. I mean, she travels the world. She's an internationally known trainer with a huge presence in the room. I think, you know, Mike was in the room with her last year and Stephanie was in the room. She has a huge presence in the room. She has a very powerful presence, and feeling pretty good about the work she is infusing in our organization. The Adult Work Center, including the ACE and Transition programs, held an open house on Thursday, September 25th from 6:30 to 8. That is the second annual open house they've held. They had 21 parents, 6 students, and representatives from Community Mental Health, Michigan Rehabilitative Services, Artists Creating Together, Disability Network, Special Olympics, the Parent Advisory Council, and Michigan Alliance for Families. And they had curriculum presentations and tours of the building and the activities in the building. It's very nice. And finally, during the superintendent's retreat, I will submit for the superintendent's review, input, and consideration a revision of the ISD plan. And there's a portion of the plan that simply does not reflect what we do in the locals for students identified as autistic or on the autism spectrum disorder. Our plan narrowly defines the programs that the districts are allowed to implement, and it limits the number of students to 6. That is just not something that's not the way we operate and never have. So we'll get that revised, and we've worked with the Michigan Department of Ed Office of Special Ed to make sure the language in the proposal is adequate. We want to make sure the superintendents, we need to get their input and then get it from the Parent Advisory Council and the parents who are currently whose students are receiving services, and we'll get that submitted. Additionally, the Office of Special Education is revising the plan submission process, and the new process will probably be in place in the next 12 to 18 months, I would hope, because they've been talking about it for about 18 months. When those rules are effective, we will have to resubmit our plan, and the part of the plan that we have used to modify caseload limits for our resource rooms will not be allowed. They will not approve ISD plans with modified caseload limits in classrooms through an ISD plan. They will allow such through a process called a waiver, a rule waiver. And so we will work with the superintendents to make sure they understand that and get that submitted. That does make me nervous, because if we can't modify caseload limits, that changes significantly the cost to districts. If they now can't have 23 students in a secondary resource room, they can have only 21, that's a big difference for a district. So that isn't anything that we have control over. We worked very carefully with MDE before submitting this modification of the plan. I didn't want them looking at the whole plan because I don't want the superintendents, you know, to hear that news that the caseload limits were eliminated. So we worked, we're ready to submit the paperwork as long as they all agree and sign the paperwork, and then we'll take those next steps when we need to in the next 12 to 18 months or more, depending on how quickly MDE moves with that change in process.
Okay. Questions?
So with the change in the autism spectrum plan, will there be repercussions in terms of caseloads?
No.
Okay.
No, it's actually much
Locals.
looser. Our
Okay.
plan says these Part B classrooms, which are the ones the districts run, are limited to 7 students. We eliminate the limitation of 7
Okay.
students. I can't explain the 7 students, but that's never how we've done it, and we just wanna get that cleaned up so that it accurately reflects what we do.
Okay. Pat?
In line with the strategic plan and the A3 action plan that you folks saw tonight, our juniors just finished their testing for coming into our building. And then this spring, the outgoing seniors will finish up and take the test again, and that's where we see where the progress has been made. And hopefully we'll get to where we want to get to by 2018. So I just want to touch on that. I'd like to thank Liz at the golf outing. At the registration table, it seems like every year with me, it was a miserable weather-filled day, but it was a good outing. And it was a lot of fun and a lot of smiles on faces. I don't have the tabulation yet on how much money was raised, but a very successful outing again, and thanks for weathering the storm at the table. National Manufacturing Day was October 3rd on Friday. Hopefully you saw the news clip. I'd like to thank Heather for putting a great press release together, 7 and 4. Did a nice job. I think it could have been a little longer of a preview. Mike spoke at it. We had a ribbon cutting ceremony at the end of the day in honor of the Mazak lathe that TBA Career Tech Center had leased for our precision machining program. And it just was a really good day for our students, our manufacturing tech students. One of the MTA students was interviewed on camera and did a great job explaining a little bit about the program, but more about being surprised with the opportunities in this region that manufacturing offered that he was not aware of. So that was pretty good. And then Matt Teeter's students also participated with MTA in the tours where they went around to 5 local manufacturers, just to highlight the opportunities that exist for young people coming up through the ranks in this region. It was a great day. Our student council students will be attending Camp Lock tomorrow in Leelanau County. They do that for a leadership training day, and then the skills that they use at that, they often are using throughout the year with their meetings that they run during the school year for student council. The Career Tech Center is hosting Leadership Grand Traverse Education Day. We have been doing that, I think, Jason, through the chamber for, it seems like, the last 7, 8 years now. Long time. Jason serves as the chair on the education committee, so thank you for the work there, but it really brings people that are not familiar with what we do at the Tech Center into our building. We will have Maddie Klingelsmith, who's a student in our allied health program that is finishing up in the early college program, the first cohort. So she's actually in her 13th year right now at NMC, finishing up, and she'll be able to talk about what the program has given her, the early college program along with the allied health program, how many credits she will be leaving with when she finally graduates after that 13th year. Her plan is to go right into the nursing program here and then take that on down to Ann Arbor and get her BSN from University of Michigan. Joe. Nice.
Whatever.
And then lastly, TBA, Traverse Bay, we will be doing the PRI initiative, Poverty Reduction Initiative. So our Saturday special, which is entitled Realizing Your Potential to Get Hired, will be hosted at the Career Tech Center October 18th. That will go from about 10 a.m. to 3:30. It's put on with many agencies within the region, Michigan Works, Goodwill Industries, Community Action Agency, but many agencies get together and work in collaboration to put a program together for those in poverty within our region. And Brent Borm chairs it for us and does a phenomenal job, a lot of time, but they pull off 2 of these a year, and it is a huge event. Typically anywhere from 150 to 200 participants come. Some of our programs take part in it, and so that will be October 18th at the Career Tech Center. That's all I have.
How's it going day to day over there?
It's going well day to day.
Yeah? Okay. All right. Jason?
Wanted to share a little bit about a research project that the folks from Learning Sciences International and Marzano Research Labs are interested in doing that focuses on our region, since we're the largest voluntary implementation of this model. That is a confederation of school districts as opposed to one big district that's made the decision. Nationally, they want to take a look at our implementation, and so we've had a series of meetings and conversations with them about what that research might look like. And just recently have reached out to local school districts through superintendents to obtain their permission to participate in the research. And we'll know exactly who's going to be involved here later this month, but so far we're getting the permission slips back signed by lots of the districts, and so it should be really interesting going forward to be the subject of this, essentially this research project that certainly will have national implications, and it is set up in such a way that student data is protected, individual district data will be protected, so we won't be singling out people, but the collective body of knowledge and evidence that we should get from this should be really, really neat. And we're excited about that, and hope to give you an update on it again soon in terms of who's in, and obviously later on with the results. Our science consultant was Tom Wessels, was doing some data analysis and kind of discovered an interesting trend, and I wanted to share that with you. The last 2 years across the state, between 2012 and this year, performance on the Michigan Merit Science portion of the test is up about 2% statewide. As an intermediate school district, our students' performance is up about 5%. What's interesting is we were able to break down the performance of students whose teachers have been regularly participating in our science professional learning communities. And the performance of those students is up by 9%. Now it's a really interesting thing for us to look at, and it kind of gets you pumped up. We're a long way from saying, from a scientific perspective, that participation has caused the increase, but it's pretty neat to be able to say that. It looks good. And so when he shared that rather nonchalantly at our last high school principals meeting, I thought, wow, I'd like to have heard about that before. This is good. This is good information. It's cause for celebration. So I wanted to share that with you.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's really nice. And
The thought occurs to me, if it had gone down 9%, they'd know who to blame though.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Without a doubt. The numbers are on paper now, as you saw today, so we'll be having those talks, I'm sure.
I'm sorry, Jason. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. November 3rd is Regional Staff Development Day, and so we'll have approximately 1,500 educators participating again, and we're continuing to go down the road of the Marzano implementation. We always say evaluation, but really this is about improving student performance and things that we need to do as educators to make that happen. That's the true focus of this project. And so we'll have about 1,500 staff from the great majority of districts participating on that day. We're going to do things a little bit differently. We're at multiple locations, just like we ask teachers to individualize and differentiate instruction. We're now at the point with this initiative that we need to begin to individualize and differentiate what that training looks like. So some of the locations are Kingsley, Elk Rapids, Benzie, Frankfort, Bel Air. We'll have some stuff going on at the Career Tech Center, a couple different sessions happening over here. And we'll have staff from multiple districts attending essentially as close to where they work as possible. There may be a little crossover. Then we will have something larger happening in Grand Traverse County to accommodate the numbers that go with Grand Traverse County. Then we have 4 districts that week that are going to be doing additional required international baccalaureate training that is required to ultimately get that IB designation. So November 3rd and really that first week in November, there's a lot happening in terms of professional development. And it's pretty neat to be involved in almost all, but it's really neat. And I'm looking across the table at Carol, and I know that our itinerants are doing some work relative to how we write IEP goals so they align with Marzano's research and learning goals and scales, which is kind of where we've all started with this initiative. And I was talking with Mike about that today, and we're just making so many neat connections with this. We're excited to get to 2018 and see where we are. it's been a fun ride, so we wanna see those results.
Are all the districts participating?
No,
Yeah.
not every district. There are 2 districts that have school that day. And there are a couple of others that felt that they had some more pressing needs. But when you look at the raw numbers of staff participating, we're very close to where we were last year. So we're happy with it.
Any questions of Jason? Just didn't realize until I read the letter here, I think Ms. Barnes wrote that letter that your daughter is a homecoming queen, so congratulations.
Pardon me? We're proud of her.
That's pretty cool. Anything else?
Thank you, Joe.
We're adjourned.